So AI agents are pretty much everywhere now, right? But how do we actually trust them? How do we make sure they behave safely and reliably without going off the rails? That's exactly what we're going to break down today. How to test AI guardrails to stop hallucinations and build real confidence in these incredible tools.
All right, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll tackle the big AI trust problem head on. Then, we'll get clear on what AI guardrails actually are. After that, I'll walk you through a really effective 3-layer testing strategy. We'll also talk about how to make all this safety work sustainable, and we'll wrap up with why testing needs to be a continuous practice, not just a one-off thing.
Let's start with the big one, the AI trust problem. You know, that core anxiety we all feel when working with autonomous agents. It's that nagging fear of the AI giving a confident but completely wrong answer. In this new world, believe me, trust is everything.
This is it. This is the single question we hear more than any other. How do we make sure the agent doesn't go rogue? It just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It's one thing to build an AI agent, but it's a completely different challenge to trust it to do its job safely day in and day out.
And here's why that's so hard. AI systems are fundamentally different. With traditional software, 2 plus 2 always equals 4. It's predictable. But in AI, its output is probabilistic. It's more like a creative partner than a calculator. And because of that, we have to shift our thinking from testing code to validating behavior.
So, if AI is naturally unpredictable, how in the world do we keep it safe? Well, that is where guardrails come in. You can think of them as the essential safety net for your AI. To put it simply, Agentforce Guardrails are like a safety membrane. They sit right between the AI and the user, and they have a few really important jobs: filtering weird inputs, blocking sensitive information from getting out, and just generally enforcing the boundaries you've set. Now, you might be thinking, okay, if we have these guardrails, why do they sometimes fail? Why do we still hear stories about AI making mistakes? It's a great question, and the answer usually comes down to a couple of key things.
First up, vague instructions. If you're not super clear about what the agent should and shouldn't do, the guardrails can't really do their job properly. But the second, and honestly more common reason, is just not testing enough. You can't just set up guardrails and hope for the best. You've got to push them, challenge them, and see where they break.
And to do that right, you need a plan, a structured approach. So let's dive into this 3-layer testing strategy. It's a framework that gives you a clear, methodical way to validate your agent's behavior from the ground up.
The strategy is broken down into 3 layers. First, we have the basics: toxicity and making sure personal information stays private. Layer 2 is about making sure the agent actually follows your rules and stays on topic. And layer 3, that's the advanced stuff, where we actively try to provoke hallucinations and really stress test the system.
Okay, layer 1. Think of this as locking the front door. We're testing for things like prompt injection attacks, where someone tries to trick the AI. And you absolutely have to test if it'll give out sensitive info, like credit card numbers. The agent should refuse these requests every single time, no exceptions.
Moving on to layer 2. This is all about scope and rules. Does the agent stick to its job? For instance, let's say you tell it to be helpful, but you also tell it refunds can't be over $50. What happens when a customer asks for a $100 refund? You have to test these conflicts. A good agent will stick to its limits and won't wander off topic.
And now for layer 3, which is where things get really interesting. This is where we go hunting for hallucinations. We'll do things like ask about products that don't even exist. A well-built agent will say, "I don't know." A poorly built one will just make something up. You know, an agent's ability to admit it doesn't have an answer is probably the single most important behavior for building trust.
So, you've run through all 3 layers of tests. You're all set, right? Well, not so fast. The real challenge is making this a sustainable practice. So let's talk about how to move beyond just manual checks.
This is a really critical point. An AI's behavior can change over time even if you don't change a single line of its configuration. That's because the underlying models are always being updated. And because of that, just doing manual spot checks here and there, it's just not enough. It can't keep up. When you put them side by side, the difference is pretty stark. Manual testing is inconsistent and just not sustainable in the long run. An automated approach, though, gives you something that's repeatable, scalable, and that you can run every single time something changes.
So, how do you automate this? There are 2 key tools for the job.
First is batch testing. You can build a whole suite of tests covering all 3 layers and just run it automatically. The second tool is called evaluators. This is pretty cool. You actually use another AI, a judge, to automatically compare your agent's answers to a perfect set of responses.
And this all leads us to our final and maybe most important point. Being successful with AI isn't just about technology, it's about a shift in mindset. It's about changing how we even think about quality.
Here's a simple checklist you can use to start that shift. Ask your team these questions. Are our data masking rules actually tested? Have we tried to break it with prompt injection? Are its boundaries crystal clear? Do we run our test suite on every single change? And have we challenged it with weird fictional scenarios? This is your starting point.
So if you only remember one thing from all this, make it this. AI quality is behavioral quality. It's not just about whether the code runs. It's about whether the agent behaves the way you expect it to. Once your team really gets that, everything else starts to click into place.
In the end, guardrail testing isn't a task you just check off a list. It's a living, breathing part of your development process. It's a continuous practice. And when you embrace that approach, AI stops being a potential risk and starts becoming what we all want it to be, a trusted, invaluable asset.